UFC Fight Night 87, Rozenstruik versus Gaziev just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Abdul Karim Al-Selwady versus Loik Radzhabov. Trust me, guys, when I tell you this, George Hardwick stylistically beats Loik Radzhabov. Okay? What don't you guys understand about that? All right, George Hardwick was destined for the top of the UFC, and it was fluke. Flukes happen, okay? He would have mopped the floor with Loik Radzhabov if they would have fought each other. But Abdul Karim Al-Selwady is what it is, you know what I mean? I'm joking. No, but seriously, styles do make fights, and that's kind of what happened here. Unknowingly, Abdul Karim Al-Selwady is a Volkanovski-type fighter. It's what he is. He backs up, he switches stances, he goes inside low kick, outside low kick, left hook, straight right hand. Like, he mixes things up on the feet, moving backwards. And in this fight against Loik Radzhabov, Radzhabov was just able to bulldoze forward and sort of be like, I don't care if you're doing all this technical stuff. You're not going to be there while I crash forward with these power shots. And if you are, you're going to get chinned. And that is what happened eventually. Now, in round one, Loik actually... It looked like he sort of caught Al-Selwady, and then Selwady went for a single leg, and there was a bit of an exchange there. And, you know, you give like Radzhabov the first round, he did better on the feet, landed good shots. Abdul was still in the fight, though. And then, you know, he even got his own takedowns in that round, had his own control time. Round two, Abdul Karim Al-Selwady, I was like, okay, this is where he's going to start to win. He's looking good, picking his shots a bit better, still staying in the fight with Loik Radzhabov. But he's picking his shots a bit better, landing better shots, and he got his takedown at the end of round two and established side control. So I was like, okay, things are on the up here for Abdul Karim Al-Selwady. But it looked like in round three, Loik Radzhabov literally just went, I'm going for it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to try and technically strike with this guy. I'm going straight through him, and I'm going to swing power shots. And he caught Abdul Karim Al-Selwady right behind the ear as he was in the middle of like a Volkanovski-ish backing up, switch stance, inside low kick, left hook, just got caught right over the top, right behind the ear, and put away by Loik Radzhabov. Great win for him. Yeah. Hardwick, like, beats all of them, really. I think Hardwick beats Shamil Gaziev, though. That's what I can say. We move on. Ludovic Klein versus AJ Cunningham. I went with Ludovic Klein, first round TKO. Kind of obvious to go for here. He's very good. He's not top level in the UFC. But he is very good. Like, he's a talented dude, fast twitch muscle, genetic phenom. I didn't know if he was going to beat Joel Alvarez. I was going to take him to win by chinning Joel Alvarez at one point, but AJ Cunningham stepped in on short notice, and Ludovic Klein did the right thing. He didn't try and get scrappy out there and go for the head. Even DC was saying this on the commentary. He went for the body. You know, I mean, landed good front kicks to the body, good shots in general, got his takedowns. Well, AJ Cunningham slipped over at one point early, but he caught a kick at one point and got a takedown. And, you know, he had good shots. He knocked down Cunningham eventually with a front kick to the body. He was, like, landing on Cunningham up against the cage to the body with hooks and grabbing at his forearms and throwing elbows and stuff. So very good performance from Ludovic Klein. Very smart performance. He gets it done against AJ Cunningham. We move on. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Claudio Ribeiro. I went with Christian Leroy Duncan by TKO in round two. He got it done by TKO in round two. I didn't think he would do it the way that it happened. I might have said round one. But I thought he was going to, like, eventually, you know, get out of the explosive first round with Ribeiro and then piece him up on the feet, either late in the first or the second round. I think I said the second. And he got it done. Not the way I thought, though. He shot a takedown, got on top of Claudio Ribeiro and beat him up on the ground brutally, finishing him off by TKO. Greatest performance on the card. It was a shame that I wasn't live to react to it because he looked good. Moving well at middleweight, by the way. At middleweight. Moving well on the outside, switching stances, spinning back kicks to the body he was landing, head kicks as well, body kicks, front kicks to the body, good low kicks. I love that he was grabbing the hands of Ribeiro. It's so good, dude. So many people don't do that enough in MMA. If someone's covering up against a cage, get a hand on one of their forearms. At the very least, you can decide what punch they are allowed to throw at you. Or you can decide that they ain't allowed to throw nothing. They have to shoot a takedown or go for some kind of kick. because you've got control of their arms. They're not going to be able to generate power. So Christian Leroy Duncan was grabbing his forearms and then manipulating his guard and elbowing over the top. Like, so many people do not do that enough. John Jones used to do it a lot more than he does now. But that's a very underrated technique to use. And Christian Leroy Duncan looked very clean on the feet. Probably one of the better performances on the card. I wish they wouldn't have given that Oliveira guy a fight of the night and a performance bonus. They should have given out 2 more performance bonuses for maybe Radzhabov and Christian Leroy Duncan, as well as the other 2 that got it. But it is what it is. We move on. Aiemann Zahabi versus Javid Basharat. I've seen a lot of robbery stuff going round. I do not think you can call this a robbery. I really don't. First of all, round 1, I think can go to Javid Basharat. He minorly outpointed Aiemann Zahabi. Round 2 and 3, I'm just going to say it how it is. Aiemann landed the better shots, and it wasn't like there was too much in it. Like, it's not like, oh, Javid outlanded him by 20. No. Javid may have outlanded him by like 1 or 2 strikes, but I thought Aiemann was landing the better shots. Like, there was no shot that Javid hit Aiemann with that made him go, whoa. You know what I mean? It was more like both guys landing tit-for-tat shots, nothing too clean. Wow, Aiemann landed a clean right hand, or wow, Aiemann landed a clean left hook. Javid was landing his little pitter-patter kicks, but there's just no steam on anything Javid throws. And I didn't think he was going to lose to Aiemann. I was going to pick him to lose eventually to someone a bit better, like a Jonathan Martinez or someone like that. Because we've seen from Javid, he's just incapable of putting that sting on a shot. So he ends up making everyone else look good. So you end up picking Mateus Mendonça. You know what I mean? And then you end up thinking, oh, maybe Victor Henry's great. When in reality, they're just barely behind Javid Basharat. And Aiemann Zahabi was barely behind on numbers, but not in effectiveness, in my opinion. So I thought Aiemann actually won the last 2 rounds. But it was very close, and if it would have went to Javid Basharat, I wouldn't have minded. I picked Javid. So I mean, I'm being unbiased here. We move on. Up the card, Vinicius Oliveira versus Benardo Sopaj. This is the KO everyone's talking about after that fight. Great round 1 for Benardo Sopaj. He gets the top control, dominates the round. Let's face it, Benardo Sopaj was doing good in this fight. Both guys were landing on the feet. Oliveira looked a little smoother on the feet, but he was sloppy in moments, and Benardo would catch him now and again. Eventually getting the takedown in the first round that gave him that round because he got the takedown. Then round 2, he got the takedown early and got the back of Vinicius Oliveira and started doing really well. On the back of Oliveira, on top control, half guard on top, on Vinicius Oliveira, landing good shots as Oliveira's writhing around on the ground. And then Oliveira gets top position. Now, here's the thing about round 2. Sopaj actually had back mount on Oliveira, flattened him out and was punching him. And I was like, Jesus, Oliveira's got to kind of move, or this... It's not like he's concussed, but this could get stopped because he's just not moving. Like, he's not improving his position. And I thought, oh, wow, this is a great round for Sopaj. This might go down as a 10-8 if he keeps going this way. About 2 minutes left, 1.5 minutes left. Oliveira reverses position, ends up on top, lands great shots of his own. And I'm like, okay, it could still be Sopaj's round. But then at the end of round 2, when they got back up, Oliveira cracked him with some shots. And I was like, oh, wow, Sopaj is done. Like, he's finished. He is covering up. He was breaking at the end of round 2. So I was like, okay, based on the body language there, I'm actually going to give Oliveira the edge in round 2. Even though maybe Sopaj did more ground and pound when he had top position. Round 3, they're getting scrappy. Sopaj loses focus. Simple as that. He'll look back at it and think, fuck, dude, I was tired. I know he took it on a week's notice. Maybe on a full camp he wins. But he took it on a week's notice. And I think on a full camp, he might have done enough to win. But on a full camp, one thing he definitely isn't doing is looking away from his opponent and being like, oh, God, thank God that exchange is over. Bang, flying knee hits him in the face. Like, he should have known something big was coming. Vinicius Oliveira was winding up, running towards him. And instead, he was, like, looking off to the side with his hands down. And then looked over at Vinicius Oliveira and, like, just threw his arms out there while he got hit by a knee to the face. Nasty KO. I think KO of the year. I honestly think KO of the year so far. I can't think of another KO this year that's been as clean. So I think he's got it. KO of the year, Vinicius Oliveira, nasty flying knee. Face first, Benardo Sopaj, nasty finish. We move on. Eryk Anders versus Jamie Pickett. I'm going to be real with you guys. Jamie Pickett's awful. Eryk Anders didn't look great either. I thought Anders was about to lose in the first round. He was so open to the counter right hand. Because when he throws his straight left, it does not come back to his chin. And it's so slow. Anders is very slow as puncher. And it's weird because I know he was in the NFL or he wanted to be in the NFL. I think he might have been a college player. I can't remember what it was, but he has an athletic background in the US. So I was like, it's shocking to see how slow he is off the mark. But his wrestling is coming together. It's not good enough to beat a certain level of opponent, but it's good enough to keep him in the UFC above bottom feeder level. Because he goes hard, he gets to the next position, and he's one of those fighters where if the hands are connected around your legs, below the bum and below the waist, he's going to finish the takedown. Most guys, you'll see them get these positions where you're like, this is a takedown, and they just don't have the ability to get to the next position. Anders has the strength and the ability to just constantly get to the next position. And that's what he was doing. He was getting a takedown, passing over to half guard. He had certain dominant positions. One time he jumped over the top of the back. Silly mistake. But he had good chain wrestling-ish. Boring-ass fight, though. Killed the momentum of the card. We'll get to the Dagestani bunch in a second, because they killed the momentum as well. Matt Schnell, Steve Erceg. I called this as it was happening. I called it as it was happening, and I want an edit of this. Someone needs to make an edit of this, because I said on Twitter, I'll find what I said on Twitter right now. Sorry, let me scroll past Mokaev posting a picture of his poo. Why are you posting that on Twitter? I said on Twitter, Steve Erceg's boxing looking crispy right now. Schnell is way too open, might get chinned soon. That was after round 1. I also said in my live stream, this is going to be a jab, then a left hook afterwards. And I know I said that in my stream multiple times. I said that's open for Erceg right now. The jab, pull back, left hook. And that's exactly what he did to Schnell in round 2. Schnell's right hand was nowhere near his chin. Every time he tried to jab with Erceg, his right hand came right down to his waist. And I was like, dude, if they jab together and then Erceg throws a left hook, he's going to catch Schnell. And Erceg just looked good, you know. Good punches, good kicks. He was crispy, landing his 2 on, what's his name, Matt Schnell in the first round, landing his 2, landing his jab. And at the end of the day, as sad as it is, great performance from Steve Erceg. Australia, you got a good flyweight on your hands. Schnell's chin just ain't cut out for flyweight. And that is tough because there's nowhere to go. It's not like you'd be like, oh, well, I'll just try out bantamweight then. That's a tough thing to do. A very tough thing to do. And it's not like he's got power. It's not like he's got great offensive grappling. If I was Matt Schnell, I would call it quits. Maybe he's on a great contract. Maybe he's making money. Maybe I should shut up. Who knows? I would call it quits if I was him. That's all I'm saying. We move on. Up the card. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Bekzat Almakhan. This one was interesting. Still domination from Umar Nurmagomedov. I want to make that clear because I know it's very easy for me to just trash these Dagestanis. They're crotch sniffers. We're not going to get a warrior fight out of a Dagestani ever. You know, I mean, it's just simple as that. You know, they're never going to take a fight on short notice. They're never going to do anything that is against them. Never going to fight injured. It just is what it is. Umar Nurmagomedov, he won. And he won the fight. You know, I thought he would get a submission. But he won the first round. I don't know if he won the first round, though. We'll get to that. But he won the second and won the third dominantly. Bekzat got back up now and again. And not just got back up, but got back up very impressively. He got held down by Umar and beaten up and elbowed and punched. And in round 2, I thought it maybe could have been stopped, but there wasn't enough time left in the round. But Bekzat would just stand up out of being mounted, which is insane against Umar Nurmagomedov, who was clearly, this needs to be mentioned more, normally when someone's taller than someone, they're thinner. Bekzat is shorter than Umar, thinner waisted than Umar, thinner shoulders than Umar in terms of his broadness, less biceps, less arm length, less thickness on the legs, less back developed on him. Like, Umar was bigger in every way than Bekzat Almakhan. And had a bigger head as well. Like, he was probably about 10 pounds of muscle bigger than Bekzat. So he's easily out-muscling him. And it was a great performance by Umar. Not really, though. He should have finished. But he's a good opponent. People are acting like this guy's a can. He is. But everyone's a can until there's someone. He was 11-1 as a prospect. He's pretty good. But he dropped Umar. That's the main thing people are going to want to hear me talk about. He dropped Umar bad. They didn't show the replay at the end of round 1, but I don't know if you give Umar round 1 after seeing him get dropped. He got caught the same way Elves Brenner knocked out his last opponent. And his last opponent had a very long name that is legitimately impossible to remember. But Elves Brenner KO'd his last opponent in almost exactly the same way. The guy dipped down to the left, and Elves Brenner's right hook, or his left hook, landed behind the ear as he dipped down to his right. This was like the inverse, but the same type of thing. He fought Kainan Kruchuski, is who he fought in his last fight. And it was a similar type of shot, you know. Umar ducked down to the left. What's this guy's name? Almakhan threw the right hook, caught him right behind the ear. Umar went down, but credit to him, the recovery is insane. Pop back up, straight for the single leg, instincts kick in, grab a leg, hold on for dear life. We'll get to Mokaev in a second. And then he just kept doing that for the rest of the fight. You know, Umar just shooting out in the open, way outside, no threat of knees being hit to his face as he does it. And he got dominant position, so good job, Umar Nurmagomedov. He won the fight. I don't think Corey Sandhagen now. Before there was like this aura of him, where it's like, dude, he could beat every top guy. I don't think he beats every top guy. I don't think he beats Corey Sandhagen, and he arguably should not be given that fight. Give me a second. I'm going to do something, and then I'm going to come back and talk about Muhammad Mokaev. Give me 1 second here. Moving on, up the card, Alex Perez versus Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev gets the win over Alex Perez in a way that makes me rethink being a fan of this sport in general. One of the weirdest wins I've ever seen in my entire life. Absolutely fraud checked, in my opinion. Alex Perez has not been in the cage in so long, and I don't think he's ever been top level. He just calf kicked Hussein Formiga, who then fell over, and then he's been top 5 for the past 5 years at flyweight. I have no idea how. But Muhammad Mokaev, he won the fight. I think he won the fight. I don't think this was a robbery. I think Perez easily could have won, but he doesn't have a brain. So people still don't understand how fights are scored. I think in the third round is what it comes down to. So round 1. Muhammad Mokaev wins the round. Perez is arguably winning. Both guys are landing shots though. Arguably Mokaev's winning as well. But he gets a takedown at the end of the round. Lands a couple of shots. He wins that round, fair play. Round 2. Mokaev gets outstruck by Alex Perez. He gets outstruck in the clinch with knees to the body, with elbows to the side of the head whenever he's diving for takedowns. Also, Perez is reversing position, escaping his back being taken, separating against the cage, kneeing the body, punching on the break. He landed a couple of good punches on Mokaev at range, but Perez's stand-up was absolutely atrocious in this fight. Awful moving forward. Throwing hooks like that after doing MMA for, 2 decades? Get a grip of yourself. Looked awful on the feet, but was still tagging Mokaev. Because Mokaev's stand-up it's abysmal. It's atrocious stand-up. It's awful. Round 3 is the deciding round. It comes down to Mokaev landing more in the first 3 minutes of the round than Perez did when they were on the feet. And I get why they scored it for him. I just think we need to start punishing certain cowardly behaviors. Because I'm going to say something here at the end of my breakdown of this fight. I don't mind Mokaev winning. Do I think Perez could have won? Yes. Visually, he could have won. I also think he could have won if he would have just jumped to guillotine at the end of round 3 when he had that position locked up. He also could have won if he legitimately just done a couple punches while he had dominant position in north-south over Muhammad Mokaev. If he just did a little couple punches here and there, he would have won that round clearly. But he's dumb, so he doesn't do that. Instead, he does nothing with those positions. Because he can't knee Mokaev in the face. And that's what annoys these fighters. Why are we rewarding a style of fighter, typically from the same region of the world that Mokaev is, and I'm not talking about Wigan, we are rewarding cowards in combat sports. It's what we're doing. The style of fighter that dives for the legs in the open, and if they get the takedown, they get the takedown. They're a better grappler than their opponent, they're going to win. But then there's no cost to them not getting a takedown. They dive straight for the low single, way out in the open with an awful takedown attempt, And if they happen to get a grip with their weird grip strength, that weird strength that they have, then they're going to ragdoll their opponent, or not when it comes to Alex Perez, who barely got held down by Mokaev at all. He went 2 for 13 on takedowns. But Mokaev, I might make a whole video about it. He only exists in this sport because grounded knees are illegal. If grounded knees were legal, Mokaev would be 0-12. Like, every single fight. In this one, look at the third round. For the entirety of the third round, he's picking on the feet, both guys landing on the feet. Not many shots, but both guys picking at each other on the feet. Mokaev shoots from way out in the open. Just holds on for dear life. Lays down, puts his knee on the ground, makes sure the referee sees that his hand's down as well, and just lets himself be pinned in like a north-south position. It happened. Someone sent me a picture of this on Instagram. I'm going to find it right now. Someone sent me a picture of it. It happened in the third round only. It happened 9 times in the third round. And he would be there for about 20 seconds each time. I don't know if that's even mathematically possible. I think it is. But he would be on the ground in that position for like 20, 30 seconds, just stalling out the fight, avoiding all contact as possible. Locking up Perez in that position, keeping a hold of the single leg while he's down on one knee, making sure the ref can see his hands down. Why are we rewarding the most cowardly way of fighting possible? There's one position you are not safe in, as a human or in general anywhere, on your knees in front of another man. The only position you are granted absolute immunity from damage in MMA is being on your knees in front of another man. Quit rewarding this style. Make them adjust. And I'm not saying, actually, I take it back. I don't think Mokaev would be 0-12. Would he have lost all of these other fights if there were knees to a grounded opponent? He would have lost to Tim Elliott. He would have lost to, today, Alex Perez. Arnold Allen would have beaten Evloev. But maybe these guys would adjust their style. And if they got dominant position in the grappling, maybe they would have got a TKO. You know? Maybe they can get TKOs from side control or from the back take when they've got hooks in on the back, and then they can give up the hooks and knee the face a couple of times. It would lead to more finishing situations from dominant grapplers, and if the grappling fails, they would be punished for failing the grappling. There is no failure for failing grappling right now in the UFC. And Merab, Mokaev, Evloev, don't know what the theme is here, are all getting away with being on their knees in front of their opponent, failing takedowns, because no one's allowed to do anything to them while they're on their knees in front of their opponent, failing takedowns. Mokaev won one of the worst performances. There's no chance he gets a title shot off of a performance like that. One of the worst things I've ever seen. We move on. Vitor Petrino versus Tyson Pedro. Well, actually, hold on. Let me not jump too ahead of the curve here saying worst performance, because this was awful as well. Pedro arguably could have got the first 2 rounds. I gave Petrino the first, Pedro the second, Petrino the third. Very, very close fight, though. Pedro actually ended up retiring. No one's really going to care because he kind of gave us the reason not to care in that fight. It was such a dull performance from both of them. But you could kind of see that he checked out in the fight. Like, he didn't want to commit anymore. He didn't want to exchange. He didn't want to trade power shots or anything along those lines during the fight. But if you look at the stats of this fight, I guess. Round 1, Pedro outlanded him, but Petrino, in my opinion, landed the better shots. Stiff jabs were landing for him quite a bit. That was his round. Round 2, I thought, was Pedro's round on the numbers. He was landing good body kicks and low kicks. And in round 3, Petrino was a bit more active, while landing the least out of any of the other 2 rounds. But he was more active on the feet early, had some good moments, and then got a takedown and just sort of held it for the rest of the round. Awful performance from both. Terrible fight. They get put in a co-main event that they don't deserve to be in, and they stink up the show like that. Pedro retired. Petrino wants to move on and fight at UFC 301. I need to see him fight another unranked guy because I don't believe in him yet. That wasn't a great performance, but he won the fight and I picked him too. We move on. Up the card, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gaziev. I went with Jairzinho Rozenstruik over Shamil Gaziev as an underdog in this main event. I thought people that were picking Gaziev, first of all, what the fuck was Gaziev doing? Like, seriously, though. Let's really think about this seriously, okay? So, basically, Gaziev tries takedowns. In the first minute, he tries a takedown way out in the open. You know the style of these guys from that part of the world. Cowards. Shoots from way out in the open the first 30 seconds. Coward. Headbutts the fucking cage, missing the takedown on Rozenstruik. Gets a takedown at the end of the first. I was begging Rozenstruik to chop the leg kicks earlier because I thought they would have actually ended the fight come round 3 or 2 if he was going to chop the low kicks way earlier. But he wouldn't chop the low kicks because I'm sure he was worried like, no, this Shamil Gaziev guy, you know, he's been training for years. There must be something to his game. You know what I mean? There must be some level of skill to this guy's game where I do have to worry about good takedown entries. Now, Gaziev did get a takedown at the end of round 1. Round 2, Rozenstruik stuffs all the takedowns again. Bit of a more competitive round, though. You know, he doesn't establish his dominance on the feet yet. I still think he won the round, to be honest with you. I still think he won the round on numbers. You know, on damage, he arguably wins the first as well. But I get it, the image of Gaziev on top, landing shots at the end of the round. You give round 1 to him. Round 2, I gave to Rozenstruik, though, clear. And then round 3 and 4, he starts destroying Gaziev with jabs and pitter-patter shots. I wish he would have put some more heat on some of them. Sometimes he did start swinging. But let me just tell you this. Round 3 and 4. Round 2. Round 1. Round 1 before the takedown. Gaziev is dying of exhaustion and cardiac arrest. He is in the cage. Mouthpiece falling out of his mouth because he's breathing that heavy. Just no cardio at all. No cardio at all. Put that motherfucker on a flight to South Africa after 11 hours. Give him no sleep. Have him train at altitude in Pretoria with Cameron Simon at Team CIT in a heat wave in Pretoria as well, at altitude, and do rounds of pads. Dude, he'd probably drop dead. I had better cardio than him. I cannot believe. I know a real fight's different. I cannot believe how fat and disgusting Shamil Gaziev is. And I'm saying that. I don't even work out, man. I barely work out anymore. I really barely work out anymore. And I'm in better shape than Shamil Gaziev. And he has been training for MMA, for his dream of being a world champion. He has been training for how long now has it been? He's been training since 2018. Actually, that's not that long. To be fair, that's not that long. But he's been training probably a few years before that. At what point do you go, maybe I should be able to go past 5 minutes? Like, at what point in your life, you top 15 UFC heavyweight, in a main event of a UFC card, at what fucking point in your fat pig life do you think maybe, just fucking maybe, as a UFC heavyweight top 15 that wants to be a world champion, maybe you should be in fucking shape to go more than 5 fucking minutes? What does that even need to be said? I couldn't believe how long it took Rozenstruik to put him away. I saw Full Violence posted this. Full Violence posted this. Masterclass from Rozenstruik. Dude, Gaziev was a non-opponent after 5 minutes. After he didn't get his first takedown attempt in round 2, he was a non-opponent. No dangerous punches, barely anything thrown back on the feet, literally plodding forward with his fucking inverted kneecaps, like almost capsizing under his colossal weight, creeping forwards. That was him trying to get a snack of the jabs of Rozenstruik. This dude had nothing after 5 minutes. Most embarrassing performance in UFC history. Do not give these guys main events because their surname ends in a V. Like, do we need to, like, I know the guys that surnames end in a V, you know, Makhachev and Habib are good. From so far, that's it. You know, and Kalaev's good. They've got good fighters. The Dagestanis have great fighters. The Chechnyans, all of that part of the world, Makachalakla, all of that shit, they have good fighters. They're not all good. They're not all going to be good. I know what the UFC were trying to do with Ikram against Paulo Costa. Remember they were trying to do that? I reckon Paulo would have whooped his ass. You know? You got Gaziev fighting Rozenstruik in his second fight. Main event. Abbas Magomedov wins his debut. Main event against Sean Strickland. They're not all good. And I want to say this at the end. If you picked Gaziev to win, I'm not just roasting people that pick Gaziev. You need to watch fights. If you watch Gaziev's regional career, and this is the argument I was making when people were telling me I was dumb for picking Rozenstruik. Gaziev had a long amateur career, by the way. He was 9-2 as an amateur, and he was 11-0 as a pro, or 12-0 as a pro before fighting Rozenstruik. If you watch his regional career, I'll point you a couple fights that I can think of. Kirill Kornilov was one of the opponents. There was another opponent that he took on as well by the name of... was it Pavel? Yes, it was. Those 3 fights in a row almost. Kirill Kornilov, he completely gassed and had nothing after round 1, edged by a split decision that he arguably should have lost on damage. Pavel Dalidko, I think a Lithuanian dude at Brave Championship Fighting. He looked awful in that fight. Won the fight by knocking the guy down and putting him away, but he couldn't get the takedown. He was getting stung on the feet badly, just wading forward. Heavy breathing the entire fight long. Darko Stozic, he ended up KOing Darko with an uppercut. Darko dropped his ass, stuffed his takedown, dropped him on his ass in round 1. Didn't follow up to the ground, but dropped him and then let him back up because he didn't want to be involved in the grappling. And then back goes Shamil Gaziev to just like mouthpiece out. Like he literally quit to cardiac arrest. I can't believe he went blind from obesity. I cannot believe how much of a state the UFC heavyweight division is in. Again, I'm not in the shape I was in when I went to South Africa. I'm probably like 10 pounds of fat heavier. I'm in better shape than Shamil Gaziev. I don't train. I don't lift weights. I don't do cardio. I just chill and watch UFC. And I'm somehow in better shape than Shamil Gaziev. I'm the same size as Shamil. There's no excuse for him to be that much out of shape. I know fighting is a different level of cardio. In a fight, he'd probably do better than me cardio-wise. I completely understand. But just physically, aesthetically, why are you looking like a fat sack of shit? You've been training for this for years. Is there ever a thought in these guys' minds, these fat, obese heavyweights, where they go, maybe I should not be morbidly obese? I don't get how I'm in better shape than Gaziev, and I do not train. And he does it as a job, and he's still fatter. I do not understand it. We're the same build. I might have broader shoulders, but we are the same build. I do not understand how he's in that bad a shape. Awful. And Rozenstruik won. Good for him. I like Biggie Boy. He's a wholesome dude. I think he got a lot of shtick for calling out Ngannou. I thought it was based. No one calls out Ngannou. He called him out. Still not a great performance, man. Like, he still looked awful himself. Should have committed more. Should have chopped the low kick heavier. It is what it is, though. Toodle pip. See you later. Goodbye.